this is my life savings, right? And so I'm mentally going, I have one shot to get this right. We might be onto something here of how to scale a high quality, authentic New York City bagel all around the globe.
That's Jay Rushin. He acquired Manhattan-based H&H Bagels in 2014 with an astounding 1.8 million average unit volume out of just 1,600 square feet. He's quietly building a major player in the current bagel wars.
We have 16 current territory franchise groups. We call that over 100 units sold. Others may call it 300 units.
In our conversation, we go through Jay's journey as an entrepreneur, the economics of H&H, and the current hype around bagel businesses.
The bacon, egg, and cheese is our number one seller. We are 100% by far the only bagel company on the planet that is kettle boiling their bagels in traditional kettles at our scale. We have no private equity investment at all. Like zero. This is my life's work. I made it this far, so we're going to keep chugging and see where it takes us.
So in the last few years, this bagel category has just absolutely exploded.
Yep.
Has that materially impacted you as an operator at all, whether it's you're seeing more customers come in or even just getting emails from every private equity firm in the country?
I mean, let's see, there's different layers there. It has certainly helped our franchise demand, no doubt. Our potential franchisee demand is probably higher than ever right now, and certainly that's part of it. From the customer side, I mean, it's hard to tell because we have so many new store openings. I mean, we've opened 6 already year to date. We opened 6 in all of last year, so clearly we're accelerating that opening rate. So it's a little hard to kind of parse that customer traffic data. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely helping. It's definitely become a more competitive category, no doubt. But with that comes some positives.
Definitely. I mean, if you think about like Einstein Bagels,
sure,
been around for decades.
Yeah.
I know their unit count's declining, but they have over 600 stores today. So, do you have anything in your mind that you can pinpoint that has almost reinvigorated this category? Because it's not like bagels have been some secret limited to the coastal cities or anything.
Sure. Well, but quality bagels have.
Okay.
That brand still does $1 billion a year in sales. So, just generally, people love bagels. But in most of America over the last 20, 30 years, the access to a really high-quality bagel has been reasonably low. So if you're talking about grocery store bagels or Einstein Bagels, and now with social media and the internet and just like, the whole foodie movement, it's just slowly seeped into the category, and people realize that, a real bagel is actually very different than what they may have grown up on.
Totally. And when you see, I mean, there's been some, especially in the last few months, like big headlines about private equity investing, like Pop-Up Bagels, like the name that it maybe comes to mind for people who are super deep in the franchise world. Again, like I think it was a New York Times article citing the latest valuation is like $300 million. You've taken a different path with H&H where, from what I understand, and we'll get deeper into your acquisition of the brand.
Yeah, sure.
You haven't taken a lot of capital.
I mean, look, I need to set the record straight because there's a lot of confusion out there, but we have no private equity investment at all, like zero. Some people are, and the New York Times itself, conflated the fact that I used to work in finance with somehow, I'm private equity or something. And, I wish that were the case, but I mean, this entire company was built on my own life savings. I mean, this is a personal family thing. It has nothing to do with private equity to date.
Yep. And so we'll jump to your acquisition story, but when you see these headlines coming out of like Pop-Up, does it fire you up at all to like motivate you?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I love to compete. I love the competition, and look, we have very different models. We have very different approaches. But they're bringing a lot of attention to the category, and I think that helps us as well. So,
well, you acquired this brand over a decade ago. And in the last few years, almost in tandem with the bagel category, entrepreneurship through acquisition is like all the rage with MBA students. And you were ahead of the curve, though. So you were looking to acquire a business in 2014. So before we get to that process, why did you want to acquire a business versus just go out and start your own company of any kind?
Sure. The multifaceted answer there. So going back a little further, I've been working since I was 14 years old. I paid my way through college. It took me 6 years to graduate because I had to get a full-time job to pay my own expenses, on and on and on. I was an English major
Okay.
at Florida State University. Junior year, I had to take an intro to finance course because I got like not quite a double major, but a minor plus in business. Intro to finance, I fell in love with, the stock market. So, Goldman Sachs and any asset manager on the planet isn't beating down the doors of English majors at Florida State University to give them jobs or to interviews. So I did the opposite. I beat down doors all over the country to try to get a job in the industry. Was able to find a job at this fast-growing mutual fund company in Texas. Joined in, and I had a lot of gumption in my 20s. So I would literally pace the floor because I was in the back office supporting the portfolio managers, equity analysts, and traders until I saw a CIO or senior PM empty office, and I would jump in and beg for a job. And I did that for 3 years straight until finally, I'm sure someone was so sick of me that they gave me a shot. But when I got that first shot as a junior equity analyst, when in my 20s, you look around on this giant floor of, traders, portfolio managers, analysts, and there's one person with gray hair on the whole floor. So I'm like, note to self, I'm going to need a second career. Just as good seems quite self-evident, right? So, and then it's just my personality. I'm an all-in kind of guy. I'm very passionate about my work. It's one of my big driving purposes in life is whatever job I'm doing, and I do it all the way. And that job was awesome, and I learned an amazing amount and it met incredible people, incredible entrepreneurs and founders. But it's intense. So 15 years in or so, I got tired of it, honestly.
Okay.
I was just burnt out. I mean, waking up at 4 a.m. and checking the Asian markets and, whatever. And your next day is it's almost like professional sports. It doesn't matter what you did 5 years ago or 3 years ago, and generally barely even matters what you did last year. If you have one bad year in that industry, you could be shown the door. So all of that, long story short, about 15 years in, I was basically getting burnt out. And so I knew I'd kind of planned that I wanted to go buy a small business at some point. I really wanted to operate something.
Yeah.
Being in that seat, you're just kind of analyzing and researching and judging others' ability to operate. And I really wanted to be in the driver's seat and operate something myself. So it took me 5 years to find H&H.
Okay. Well, for one, I just think it's almost funny just hearing you're saying, you're burnt out, so let me go buy a small business. Not exactly like a...
Yeah. Well, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know. Look, I was a lifelong foodie. I was always fascinated with the food industry, but, I also knew that, look, I don't want to go do a full-service restaurant path. I'm too old at this point. I don't have the experience. And obviously, full service is higher risk. And the life cycle of first full-service brands is pretty minimal outside of a handful. So I was looking all over the country. I didn't necessarily mind, where it was located.
And you're just doing this though while you're keeping your day job.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
So none of this you're gonna do a search fund and get paid a small salary to go find a business. You're doing this just on your own.
No, this is just on my own dime with my own savings. This is all, and look, this is my life savings, right? And so I'm, mentally going, I have one shot to get this right. Or, it's not like I can just, fail right out of the gate and try another one. This is my one chance.
Yeah, you're taking your swing.
I'm going to take my swing. So.
And at this point, I mean, where are you, from a personal standpoint? Do you have a family, or do you have the freedom where you can do whatever you want?
Let me think back here. So, no, you know what? I was I was married at that point. To my current wife, but we didn't have any children yet. I'm just trying to put it all together.
Yeah.
But I was married.
Okay.
I came close to acquiring a tortilla business in Phoenix, Arizona. It was a cool little business. Ironically enough, there were some parallels to H&H. It was this, great little brand that, the founders hadn't done a lot with at the time. It was underinvested.
Like a CPG business where they sold it in
no, it was local delivery, almost a wholesale business primarily, where they were delivering to local Arizona businesses daily, fresh tortillas. It was a cool little business, but we just couldn't agree to price. One brother didn't want to sell, the other brother did. So it was just like, all right, well, I'm going to ask such a big price that he's going to say no. So I said no. H&H has been in my wife's family since the late 1980s. So
and there's a story there with H&H.
There's a long story, which is why most of the time I just brush over it because it's complicated. But yeah, so that's how I found out H&H was potentially for sale. Is my father-in-law retained some of his equity in that business. He had sold part of it to his nephew to continue operating the business. And so it was through my wife that I heard that the current operators were thinking about selling, and I just raised my hand, and I love to sit down, talk to you, and see the books, and start to put something together. So
okay, and what's the shortest version of the story? Because I think people from the New York City area who might hear this might remember. Sure. I mean, I know the original owner, or
I can get you under 3 minutes.
Okay, all right, let's do it.
I got it done.
It's worth it, folks.
Yeah, sure. So in 1972, a Puerto Rican immigrant named Helmer Toro bought an existing bagel shop on the Upper West Side that was called Midtown Bagels. Don't ask me why it was called Midtown Bagels on the Upper West Side, but this is the 1970s, so I think it was considered Midtown way back then. But anyway, he renamed it H&H Midtown Bagels. 2 years later, in 1974, he opened a second location on the Upper East Side. He called that H&H Midtown Bagels East. In 1979 or so, he went bankrupt for the first time. Both of those locations went to bankruptcy auction separately. Helmer Toro won the auction for the Upper West Side. He lost the auction for the East Side. So right around 1980, the brand got split into two ownership groups. Fast forward 30 years, obviously it has this pop culture moment. It's on Seinfeld, Sex and the City, Entourage, You've Got Mail, everything. The brand blows up. Helmer Toro on the West Side blows himself up, ends up on Rikers Island on weekends. The IRS seizes all of his assets, and all of his operations are closed and liquidated. The Upper East Side being a separate ownership group, and at that time, no, I don't think my father-in-law was still operating at that time, but he still had an equity stake. They were just doing their thing. And so those operators are the operators I bought out in 2014. And obviously we've just been putting it all back together and building from that base ever since.
And when you say those operators, those strictly the Upper East Side location?
It was the Upper East Side location and the local wholesale business and still a small nationwide shipping business at the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So did you raise any money for that for you to step in as the owner, or did you pour your life savings or a portion or whatever of your life savings into it?
The acquisition was all from myself. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So H&H is not owned by private equity. It's owned by you, sir. Well, you told me when we spoke before that H&H originally, when you took over, was this mashup of a bagel shop and a 7-Eleven.
Right.
So
yeah.
Can you tell us what was the business like on day one when you're the owner and you have the keys?
Well, going back to the beginning of our conversation when I said you don't know what you don't know, I didn't know a lot about the food business. So there were some definite surprises. First of all, I knew nothing, and it is not a skill set of mine and my wife will attest, about how mechanical equipment works or how to fix it, or I'm like the opposite of a Mr. Fix It, whatever term that would be. That's me. So you buy this business, and my biggest concern, initially was to make sure the top line was what I was expecting it to be. Everything else I figured I could fix it, but I also didn't expect every single piece of equipment to need to be refurbished or replaced in the first 18 months.
Oof.
So that was an eye opener. Didn't realize that there was no actual functional plumbing in the basement of that building, and I had to tear up the entire basement, rebuild it, and put in new plumbing. I didn't realize that at the time. So for years, I had this printer on my desk that was the only physical asset that it was untouched since my acquisition on January 1st of 2014. It finally broke.
Damn. Well, talk to me about the product mix, because it sounds like you guys weren't just selling bagels. You had almost it was like a mini grocery store.
Well, yeah, there was, we were selling eggs, we were selling gallons of milk, we were selling bags of nuts, we were selling oatmeal, soup, a giant display case of, homemade Italian cookies that were made on site by a singular pastry chef or baker or whatever you want to call them at the time. It was an interesting setup.
And was your plan, were you like, I'm going to change this? Or did you just think, I'm going to take it over and see what I like and what I don't like?
No, I actually had started about, I think it was 4 to 6 weeks before my official January 1st, operational control. So I had, 4 to 6 weeks of figuring out what I was going to immediately change. So
okay.
I pulled out a lot of things pretty quickly. It's just when you build models and you do the math and you see the margins on products and they're not selling at a volume that makes any sense, you pull them out. So
yeah,
within the first 6 months, we got rid of all those Italian cookies because they weren't selling. Like nobody bought them at a bagel shop anymore. And you're literally talking about like a 6-foot display case of homemade cookies every day. So it just didn't make any sense.
Totally.
Yeah.
Hearing it, it's just like why is that even in there? But
it was the category.
Okay.
Like if you go back in time, and there's still some that exist like this out there, but it was like a bagel. The bagel category had to be everything to everyone at the local mom and pop level, and
that's the way it was.
It's just the way it was.
Yeah.
And there's a general fear among mom and pop, or what I call small business operators, that every incremental sale lost is devastating, and they don't necessarily look at the margin or return. They could be losing money on selling oatmeal because they're making it every day and selling 5 bowls a week, but it doesn't necessarily register sometimes. So
yeah, there's the fear of loss of sales, but yeah, then they're not really thinking through like what it does to your brand identity, the average order time, because there's so many different things you could buy, and yeah, there's so many like ripple effects to having.
It affects labor, it affects
exactly
gross margin and COGS. It ripples up and down that P&L, but there's just not. It's somewhat invisible. I call it invisible waste.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned 2 other facets of the business: wholesale and one other thing. So can you?
Oh, nationwide shipping. Yeah.
So what was the wholesale line of business, and then what was this nationwide shipping?
Yeah, nationwide shipping is just individual boxes of bagels and spreads and Nova to any consumer. So that's like a B2C.
So the brand had enough cachet where most bagel shops aren't. Wouldn't even offer that because who's going to order it?
What attracted me to the whole thing was like, look, this incredible New York brand is just kind of languishing.
You say it was on Entourage?
It was, yeah.
I don't even remember that episode.
Yeah.
I'll have to find that out.
Yeah. Look, it was a really good business, just standalone business. It was attractive. Then you throw in the fact that it's this iconic New York brand that's just kind of languishing. And, that was really the opportunity, right? It's like, all right, I've got a really great, solid existing business. I've got this brand here that really no one's doing anything with, but it's got incredible brand recognition, even, a million times more than even I thought walking in those doors in 2014. It's incredible, the recognition that the brand has globally. So all of that were motivations, because, it's also a personality thing. Like you have to find a fit for, what you're good at. So I don't think I could start a brand from scratch and build a brand. It's, that requires a certain level of salesmanship and marketing acumen that, I don't possess. But what I was confident in is here's a good, solid, sizable business with a great brand that nothing is happening to. I think I can fix it. I think from an operational, perspective, I can fix it, and we'll see where we can go from there.
Yeah, and the wholesale business, I take it was just you guys.
Was just local wholesales to hotels, cafes, restaurants all over the city. We had drivers, and they would just drop them off every day.
Are you using one of your stores to produce all the bagels that are getting shipped, or is there a separate facility?
Everything used to be on the Upper East Side.
Okay.
One facility. So we had roughly 6,000 square feet over the ground floor, basement, and half of the second floor of that building. But yeah, I mean, the great thing about it is we've been very comfortable with logistics and scale production of bagels for a long time. So it wasn't scary to think about scaling this business from a bagel production perspective. We already knew how to do that. So we had to get better at it, and then we had to go build a very large facility over in Queens and make sure that facility was up to our standards. And that took years in and of itself.
And this wholesale business, because I know it somewhat plays a role in helping you with your franchise operations later on, which we'll get to. But you guys were you delivering the bagels fresh, or were they just the dough?
No, these were fully baked fresh.
Okay.
So we had a night staff baking staff that would come in. It would come in about 9 o'clock at night, roughly.
Oof.
Work all night.
That's a tough job.
Drivers would come in at 2 or 3 in the morning, load up all the boxes, and disperse all over the city, dropping them off. Yeah.
When you take over on day one, or even just that first year, if you think back, you went from this finance career.
Sure.
I imagine you're wearing a suit every day or close to it, right? And then, so what is your life like on a day-to-day basis? Are you in that? You mentioned the basement, first floor side. Are you just checking, like making bagels?
I mean, my office was on the second floor of that store, so I was right there every day. I mean, at the beginning, I'm loading drinks and showing people how they should be loading the beverage units. I'm taking deliveries. I mean, it seems like a century ago, but I mean, there was no Uber back then. There was no DoorDash.
Yeah.
So like all of our delivery orders came from the phone.
Oh, wow.
So I would actually work weekends and sit up in my office and do nothing but take delivery calls all day. So, and there was a time where I didn't have anyone else working in the office. So I worked 7 days a week for, I think it was a year and a half or 2 years straight.
Holy crap. And did you have like a mentor in the restaurant business, or are you just figuring this out on your own?
I had nothing.
You're insane, man.
You're not the first to accuse me of that.
Yeah. Let's talk about the bagel making process.
Yeah, sure.
Because you did reference that earlier. Like that's maybe one of the bigger unlocks with this current hype in the bagel category is that now there's more quality bagels reaching all across America. Where, I mean, I grew up in New Jersey, so New Jersey, New York, right? Like I've been used to good bagels my whole life. But is the process really, really complicated? Because I think going back to that like New York Times article, I think the word they were using was like the bagel process is super finicky or something like that.
It is. There are a lot of steps. So the reason there is such a wide variety, well, there's a lot of reasons why there's such a wide variety of quality in the bagel category, and any baked good for that matter. But the process from starting with a bag of flour and ending with a bagel has a lot of steps, and arguably more steps than just about any other bread product, because you're throwing in a kettle if you're going to make an authentic New York bagel, which there's a lot of bagels that don't touch a kettle anymore. When we were building our facility out in Queens, honestly, my hope is we could get away without the kettle, because I mean it's like a giant cauldron of boiling water. So like, I mean, we are 100% by far the only bagel company on the planet that is kettle boiling their bagels in traditional kettles at our scale. I mean, no question. I mean, we have an entire line of like cauldrons of boiling water in our bakery out in Queens. But, like a Thomas's bagel, those aren't kettle boiled. I mean, bagel goes in one end, it's all automated. Like the flour starts here and out comes the bagel on the other end. So, it's not kettle boiled. It's most likely not retarded in a refrigerator for 24 hours, which helps create some of that flavor. These are all things that you could skip and still come out with a piece of bread that looks and acts like a bagel. It doesn't necessarily taste like a bagel, but it looks like one. But it's a lot of labor. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of labor. And it's easy to skip. And then the flip side of that is, we use the highest quality flour on the market. And so each of our bagels has 13 grams of protein in them. But if you go to the grocery store, you pick up a bag of bagels, chances are it's going to have, 6 or 7 or 8, maybe 9 grams of protein. And that's a direct reflection of the quality of the flour input. So like I could make a call right now and save a lot of money if I lowered the quality of the flour that's going into our bagels, but it would also impact the result.
Interesting. And when you took over H&H, like, is there just some menu book or some Bible of bagels that's just telling you we've been using this flour since the 80s because it's the best? Like, is there some? Because again, you're not a restaurant guy coming into this.
I mean,
so like, was there a playbook for you?
Business, like operating a business is always a passion of mine, and food was always a passion of mine. So I just threw myself into it and learned. I didn't know anything about bagel production specifically walking in that day, but I was confident I could figure it out.
Is the current recipe though, like that flour,
the current
that was already in place? Or did you make that change?
I made a direct change right when I started, and it's been in the news a lot over the last couple of weeks, as we switched from bromated flour to unbromated flour in the first 6 months of my taking over. Part of my research on the category, I saw that bromated flour was outlawed in Europe, and I believe at the time it might even have been not allowed in the state of California. And
that's how it goes.
There were these rumors of like it being carcinogenic, and I'm like, well, I'm all about quality food, real food. That's just been who I am, since before I think the term even foodie existed. I'm a big believer in real food. I'm the family cook. I cook, from scratch every single night for my family, and it's just one of my kind of core beliefs. So when I saw that Europe and California didn't allow bromated flour, and I dug in, I'm like, I don't want it. I don't want my family to ingest bromated flour. I don't want to do it. I don't think I want my customers to ingest it. So we had to switch. It was hard, and there's going to be a lot of New York bagel companies that are going to have a challenge over the next 12 months to figure that out. But it is what it is. I mean, it's a core tenet of what H&H represents. Is it's from like we didn't even serve egg sandwiches when I took over in 2014.
Yeah. So
we almost burnt down the entire building installing that griddle. but that didn't exist. But we could have just been pouring egg out of gallon jugs and save some money, but we don't. We still crack fresh eggs at every location in the country, and that's one of our core tenets: real food and high quality food, and that's what's better for people.
I love that you were ahead of the curve on that with the flour. But let's talk about those bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches.
Yeah.
In 2016, I think, is when you added that to the menu.
Yep.
Can you just talk about the impact that sounded like immediately had on the business?
Oh man, it was fortuitous because eggs have been on a high demand curve for years now. I mean, they're more popular than ever, and it's our number one seller at every location in the country. Like I could look at every single unit right now that's open, and I could tell you what the top 3 sales are every location every day because it's the same. But the bacon, egg, and cheese is our number one seller.
And immediately in 2016, H&H never sold the bacon, egg, and cheese, but within a month, 2 months, it was just like people ate it up.
It was an instant hit. Instant.
And did you test it at all? Like, meaning, like, did you in some back kitchen, right? Like, did you guys just experiment with what your bacon, egg, and cheese was going to be, or did you just say, hey, we have a griddle now? Yeah, and we're just gonna make some bacon, egg, and cheese and see what happens.
We experimented with the choices of bacon that were available to land on what we thought was the best. We never even contemplating pouring eggs out of jugs because that just generally I find off-putting. So I just never even contemplated it. So it was really just landing on the right bacon.
Why do you think? Because I noticed that right away when I looked at your menu and say some of these other bagel chains that are let's say benefiting from the current interest in the category. Mm-hmm. You guys are really the only one. I mean, in the franchise world, like there's obviously there's some regional chains that have taken investments, but for the most part in the franchising world, you guys are really the only ones with like a core presence of these breakfast sandwiches. Which why do you think others haven't done that? To me, it seems obvious. Again, I grew up in Jersey, the most popular bagel spot in our town, which has like 7 locations now in this state in New Jersey. Always, that was their thing. It was like they have the best breakfast sandwiches.
Sure.
So this idea of a bagel shop to me without breakfast sandwiches when I like moved into New York after college was a little bit foreign. I was like, wait, like why would you just be selling like bagels with cream cheese and nothing else?
Right.
But yeah, do you have any just operational insight as to why maybe they haven't ventured into the breakfast sandwich world? Because clearly working for you guys.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I would venture to guess that the two brands that you're probably referring to don't have any food experience themselves, the founders. And it's hard. I mean, installing hoods and Ansel systems and having fire inspections, I mean, it slows down every single opening. There's no doubt. It's a whole different training of staff, arguably a little bit, harder to staff when you're making sandwiches made to order. I mean, all of our sandwiches are made to order. So whether we're slicing fresh avocado for each sandwich ordered with that, bacon, egg, and cheese isn't made until it's ordered. So there is a level of difficulty there and execution versus just throwing bagels and spreads in a bag.
Yep.
So, but I mean, I would imagine their argument is it's much more, lower labor and things of that nature. But we already have, one of the lowest labor models in the business, in the entire food business for that matter.
The factory that you guys built in the Bronx, when did that project start?
It's in Queens.
Queens, right.
We opened that in early 2024. So we've been open almost 2.5 years now. So it started, I guess we started researching that in probably 2019. Spent a lot of time in test kitchens all over New England, just trying to figure out what technology we could leverage and what we couldn't. And like I said earlier, one of our tests was whether we could get away without fully kettle boiling. And that was, evident within, 60 minutes that was not an avenue we were going to go down. But it's something like that is trial and error, right? It's like, how can you scale and what parts of production can you scale without negatively impacting the quality? And that's the problem that any business, especially in the food business, runs into with scaling is like, how can you maintain volume and quality while you scale up? It's difficult. Was
there a core motive though as to why you wanted to build out this facility, right? Was it to just increase the quality of the wholesale division? No. I know you guys are shipping internationally too, I believe.
We are. Correct.
So was that part of it? It's like you just need more volume coming out of your...
No, I would say that it was primarily for the franchise business. We didn't feel... First of all, we were out of space in our Upper East Side facility. I mean, we were already producing millions and millions of bagels a year. And, like every bag of flour had to be moved around like 10 times before it actually got used because we were just so space constrained. But we didn't feel good about trying to launch and establish a franchise business without the baking capacity to get that done. So, financially, it probably wasn't the smartest move, but operationally and strategically, it made the most sense. And, that facility now will be able to scale into hundreds and hundreds of locations. So
as early as 2019, then you were thinking about franchising because that's when I think, yeah. Okay.
For sure.
I know at some point you got a random Facebook message from some guy in either Taiwan or Thailand.
Yeah, it was Taiwan. And that was back in 2016. 2016 was a pivotal year in the brand's history and how we got to where we are today. We opened our second location and my first location from ground up on the Upper West Side. And right around the same time, the guy reached out to me on Facebook from Taiwan to ask if I was interested in sending container loads of par-baked bagels to him in Taipei because he owned and operated 5 New York bagel cafes, all in Taipei. And I didn't even know what really par-baked was at the time. I had a reasonable understanding, but I was like, yeah, we're going to give it a shot. So I told him, look, let me do some R&D, give me a couple of weeks, and I'll get back to you. So I got to work with our bakers, and we started playing around with it, and then I would have them make them. I would take them home to my home oven, bake them off, and within the first week, I'm eating these par-baked bagels out of my home oven. Like, these are amazing. I mean, this is like hot out of the oven on the Upper East Side. Like my baker just handed it to me. So, before that, and like we're opening the Upper West Side, and we're opening Upper West Side in a, large box with all the bagel making equipment in the back and a full-time baker and a full-time bagel maker and like formers and proof boxes and all this gear, like hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment. And it's 1 mile away from the Upper East Side. But that's what you did. I mean, that's what, there was no, I mean, if you wanted to be a true New York bagel at the time, that's just what you did. And there was no alternative, no new way of thinking. But, this guy comes in and we start sending 20 pallets of bagels, par-baked frozen bagels in container loads, 2 weeks on a ship to Taiwan. And he loves the product. I'm testing the product at home, love the product. I've got this new Upper West Side location that like I'm looking at the P&L after 6 months and I'm just pretty underwhelmed by it all. I'm like, look, there's no way to scale this business at all. Like there's just no, like you can't grow this business out of New York City because it's impossible. I mean, with the labor and the equipment costs and the size box you need, like, and that's really why up until recent years, there was no scaled nationwide brand other than Einstein and all the brands they own underneath it.
Because of this, production capacity problem you're talking about?
It's like, how do you solve for that?
Yeah.
I mean, Einstein's product wasn't great. So the thesis is their product isn't great because it's made in California at a factory and shipped in and it's it's like they had a problem working well in major metro areas because the quality wasn't there, but they did better in suburban.
Yeah,
people just wanted bagels. So all of that together, it was like, all right, well, we might be onto something here of how to scale a high quality, authentic New York City bagel all around the globe and still maintain the essence and the ethos of the brand of being an authentic New York City bagel and high quality and real food and unbromated flour and high protein and high iron and everything else that comes with it.
Okay. And so that's a 5-year journey from when you first started thinking about it in 2019 till you said it opened in 2024, where the facility. And so there's basically 5 years of work for you to figure out.
Well, there was a pandemic in there.
Yeah, casually. Yeah.
Just a small one. And I ran into some health situations there that, slowed me down a little bit.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, we got it done. It took a lot of research, a lot of R&D, and, I had to build a team. I mean, we had to get the right team on Team H&H to get the right people in place. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts that needed to happen before I was comfortable pulling that lever to start selling franchises. I mean, I didn't want to just be a fly-by-night franchisor that's just kind of a wing and a prayer. I needed the team and I needed the infrastructure in place. And look, bagels is just different than every other category. I mean, it's just like the bagel is the star. So until you get that figured out and the production figured out and then how to logistically place it in every location in the country figured out. I mean, it's not, other categories it's pretty easy to find a breaded chicken breast or ground beef or a burger. I mean, that's all already been figured out for you. But this is like a proprietary product and you call up food distributors, they're not really, jumping at the opportunity to stock proprietary items for a new startup franchise. I mean, that's not something they're really jumping over through hoops to get that business. So it takes time.
And so if I'm hearing this correctly, the big unlock for H&H is that you guys figured out a way to get a par-baked product that the end result quality is still just as good or pretty damn close to your actual product, right, in the store. And I'm going to ask this for the audience. I feel like I know the answer, but right, why not just franchise it, but have everyone bake the bagels? Like have people come in at whatever 4 a.m. whatever time your original locations are having employees come in.
Yeah, because no one would ever make any money, and I think every franchisee would like to be profitable. I mean, look, labor rates are only going one direction, and making bagels in the back of any location anywhere in the United States is going to become more and more difficult. There's no question. So the only way I was ever going to franchise is if it made sense. If it made sense for someone to put their life savings on the line to grow a business and to go out and be their own entrepreneurs. We have a lot of first timers in our system, and it's great to see these families working together on opening week and really just going after it and building their own business. So
just lost my train of thought. Hang on. Where was it? Damn, I had a good question. Yeah, before I forget this one. So this comes from the Prince Street CEO.
Yeah.
Because they're authentic pizza in New York, and now they're selectively franchising.
Mm-hmm.
But he said something that was interesting. The founders of Prince Street wanted to stay very true to the recipe that they have in New York, but the New York water is, I guess, a big deal for him.
Yeah.
So they're using a company called like New York Water Company, and they have some filtration systems so you can install it anywhere, right? LA, Toronto. Are you guys using the same thing for the bagels, or no? Maybe not because it's par baked.
Yeah, we're making them all in New York. So.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see how that works. I mean, going back to finishing that, my thought on why not have the franchisees make it. The other issue with making it on site is the variability is going to be incredible. Like even when we were making all of our bagels on site on the Upper East Side and the Upper West Side initially, I mean, the day-to-day variability is reasonably wide because you have individual people standing in front of an oven and flipping the bagels and doing what they do and like there's variability there. So like now that we're under one roof and one system and one large team of employees, we've really narrowed that variability down. There's always going to be variability with a higher touch product, but so it's a lot better end result for consumers if that variability is 10% rather than 40%.
For sure, yeah. And I mean, for you, like the name of the game is, right, you want to reduce that surface area where things can get messed up, where mistakes can happen. So that the lower or the smaller that surface area is, the better for you. And that's so important for a franchise and the brand standards.
It's better for the consumer, obviously. Yeah. I mean, they pretty much know what they're going to get every time.
Yeah.
And, that wasn't necessarily always the case in the history of bagel making or specifically H&H, just the nature of the beast.
Have you studied any of these other bagel chains, whether it's a pop-up or even I live above, they're not franchising, and I don't know if they ever will, but Apollo Bagels, which is local here, the few in Brooklyn, the one in Hoboken, and
sure.
Do you know, are they par baking? Is it, I guess I'm trying to understand. I mean, I got to imagine pop-up has to. There's no way the franchisees are making the bagels inside the store every day.
Yeah, definitely not. Their buckets are tiny. I'm not sure where they exactly stand today, but I believe they're shipping their dough in one form or another.
Yeah.
To be, they have those little pasta warmers or whatever to kettle boil their bagels on site. So
yeah,
I'm assuming they're shipping down dough and then that gets boiled and baked on site.
Well, so when did you decide, or when did you officially launch franchising? And what is, if you can just give us the highlights of the model, right? Like what's the desired square footage?
Yeah.
Typical employees needed inside the four walls.
Sure. Yeah. We launched, I believe it was in 2021, we officially launched. Our first sale, I believe, was in 2022. I don't know. All my years are start to merge together. But a perfect size box for us is 1,400 to 1,800 square feet. We're only 2 day parts, breakfast and lunch. So typically our hours are 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. The big driver of the model is low labor. So we tend to have, around 20% all in labor costs, give or take, depending on top line. So that's really, we have no specialized labor because, we're operating with a special oven that's computerized. You literally hit, 6 buttons on the electronic display and your bagels are going to be ready with a very loud alarm. And it just depends on volume, how many bodies you need. So, but you can scale it up, scale it down, depending on volume. And bagel business Saturday and Sundays are a big part of the week. So that tends to be, 30 to 40, upwards of sometimes 50% of your weekly sales. So you need part-timers on the weekends, and then you kind of have a core staff Monday through Friday.
Okay. And what is the, how many employees, part-time, full-time, inside, say on a busy Saturday? You running 8 to 10 in the store?
Oh, yeah. Busy Saturday. At some of our higher volume stores will probably have more like, probably like 10 to 12 bodies on the weekends.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said the breakfast sandwiches are just made to order. So
correct.
Do you guys have any, like whether it's in the POS or anything where you're just dropping eggs because an order's coming in, or no, it's literally just unless the ticket's there, we're not doing it.
Unless the ticket's there, no one's. But I mean, it's coming so steadily that it's not like not like the guy on the griddle is taking a break.
Yeah,
especially on weekends. I mean, during the week it might be a little bit different, but
you said the hours though too. Only breakfast and lunch day parts.
Yep.
Wasn't H&H 24 hours when you took over?
It was.
And did you just bump down the hours over time, or?
Over time, yeah. So it was gradation. So There was multiple broken windows and broken beverage unit doors, and from the middle of the night, people just coming in and coming in from a night of having fun and maybe drank a little bit too much. But just looking at the numbers, we didn't do a lot of volume, and then keep walking in and having these crazy things happen. And I just look, this is why no real brand in America is open 24 hours, because it's not worth it. So I think that first year that we ended 24 hours, I think we closed at 9, and then a year later we moved it to 8, and then a year later we moved it to 7. And then the pandemic hit, and you could do whatever you wanted. So we fast forwarded it and closed it at 4. So the Upper East Side still opens till 4 because they do okay. But most every other unit in the country closes at 3 o'clock.
Okay. That's a benefit to franchisees.
Oh,
right?
100%.
Yeah. I mean,
100%. That's what really makes the labor model hum is, get in, you do your 2 shifts and your high volume hours, and you get out, and that's it. And obviously labor is a huge input to every P&L and
massive.
And if you can manage that, and that's how we came up with our entire, Chipotle-like model. I mean, there is no specialized labor. We Ryan and I modeled out every single move to making a sandwich and moving people down the line. And we're constantly evolving it and improving it. But it's all just to maximize that efficiency of the team members to get people in and out as fast as possible. And obviously the secondary benefit of that is it's very low labor.
Where are you at today from a franchising perspective? Like how many operators or franchisees, should I say, are on board, and which this is almost like a hot topic. How many units are attributed to those franchisees?
Sure. That's a funny thing to me, to be honest.
Yes,
because you can write whatever number you want in these agreements. If a territory I consider 5 units, maybe down the road growing to 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, and I'm selling it for 5, and then my competitor's selling the same exact map for 20. Does that mean that competitor is 4 times larger than us? No, I don't think so. But we have 16 current territory franchise groups. We call that over 100 units sold. Others may call it 300 units. But I'll let their collective creativity go wherever they want.
Okay. And you said you started franchising this in 2021. So when would you say if there was an uptick in the franchise demand? I would imagine.
The first couple are always the hardest. That's the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
There were so many people that wanted to do a deal, but nobody wanted to be first. So the first is always the hardest. So that took a while. And then once Unit 1 opened and people could walk in and see what an H&H was going to be like outside of New York is really when...
What was that first location? Where was it?
In Boca, Florida.
Oh, good market for you guys.
So that's really what accelerated that trajectory. We always had great demand. Again, going back to the brand recognition. So being a half-century-old New York City brand with that iconic pop culture history, it definitely attracted a lot of interest. And, like I said earlier, now the demand is higher than ever because now, we just opened franchise unit number 13 down in Orlando. And now, so people are touching it all over the country now and seeing how awesome it is, and the product's great, and the environment's fun and, attractive. So we're just, we're getting a lot of demand. So that territory count's going to change rapidly in the next few months.
Did you have a idea or a game plan of who you wanted your franchisees to be, like what their background would be? And then also, did you have markets that are on your, we want to expand here first, and then even maybe markets where you're like, we can't expand this far until, maybe you have a certain number of, maybe it's about profitability for you, maybe it's about something else. But
yeah, sure. I mean, to answer the last one first, we think H&H has a massive international potential, just because of the recognition and the ties to New York and being H&H. And we get a lot of incoming interest from all over the world, but we're not ready for that yet. So, but we will one day. So that is one of those things. We're just not there yet. We've got so much going on in the United States that we're going to focus on the States for now. But back to the first part of that question. Look, all the consultants when we first started this business told us we were going to have to launch, for X number of years selling single units. And so, okay, all right, we don't want to do that, but okay, we'll go with that. But again, the advantage of having a recognizable brand is we didn't actually have to do that. Everyone, even starting out, wanted territories and multi-units, and so we quickly went with that. And so now all we do is sell multi-units and have since day one. And we think it benefits everyone. I mean, frankly, single units is not a good model for the franchisee.
Not at all.
Just the returns are poor.
Unless you're operating at Chick-fil-A, there's not really a...
Yeah, I mean, you're the opportunity for a franchisee is to build a tradable, sellable asset or something that is gathering asset value over time. And you just can't do that with a single unit.
Yeah.
I mean, like your multiple is going to keep increasing the more units you have and the bigger the territory you have. So we've been fortunate enough not to have to go down that path. And so now we sit in a great position of where we're just awarding, territories to great groups. Early on, it was everyone that came on in our first, handful of franchisees were all just very passionate about the brand. Almost every one of them grew up, in New York City, down the street from H&H, and we're just really excited about the opportunity to be part of the brand. As time has gone on and our groups have, grown, that's not necessarily the case, but we're still mostly families, local community members that are making this commitment to H&H. People that are, wanting to own their own business after years in corporate America, and they want something for themselves to grow into. They want something for the young families to kind of take over when they're ready. I've heard quite a few people be concerned for their kids' future with AI and what that does to career paths and the uncertainty, and that it does make food a little more attractive because food is food, and I don't think AI is going to be making food any day soon. So I mean that does add an interesting layer to the story.
Do you have any multi-unit like restaurant owners who have bought into your brand? Like people who are already own existing franchises?
Yeah, we do. We have several. We have a group out in Southern California that used to own and operate, I think it was 20 Krispy Kremes.
Oh.
They sold that, and now they're going to build out H&H in SoCal. Then we had a group in D.C. that was involved with Popeyes for a long time. The father sold those assets, and the sons are building out H&H and one or two other brands in the area. Let's see. In Jacksonville, we've got a group that sold their tropical smoothie cafe to go into H&H.
Okay.
So most of them have moved away from a brand and into our brand. I don't think any of our owners currently, other than DC, operating more than one brand at this time.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, the reason I ask, frankly, is because I feel like maybe intentionally, or maybe just because some of the other brands have leaned into the mainstream media interest in this category, but you guys, I feel like, have flown under the radar. And I mean, the unit economic, or at least the average unit volumes, which in the restaurant world is how a lot of people at least just get a proxy for like what's possible. And I mean, you gave us a square footage, like 1,400 to 1,800 square feet. And maybe even flying under the radar by design. So you might not even want to keep what I'm about to say in. But I mean, I know a current average unit volume in the recent FTD is like 1.8 million, which on a sales per square foot basis is phenomenal. And you even have at least one store doing upwards of 3 million.
We have multiple stores.
Which is crazy. I mean, that's really, really good numbers. So
Yep.
it is maybe on the higher end. Is that like a New York City anomaly, you think? Or do you believe that bagels, and this kind of gets into another question, which is like, how sustainable is the category? But I think let's keep it just to what H&H is doing. I mean, why do you think again, because I know it's early, but those are pretty phenomenal numbers.
Well, I think it's several things we've already touched on. One is, we're a meal-based brand, so we offer the opportunity for customers to come in and have a meal. Some of our newer competitors aren't offering a meal; they're just offering bagels and spreads. So that's that differentiator.
So you're talking about like the sandwich. We're talking about that bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich.
I mean, it's a real meal. Like, you're not having to make your own sandwich. You're having someone make a fresh sandwich for you. That's the way of the world. I mean, most people don't really want to make their own meal anymore, or at least not often. And secondly, it's just, the history of the brand and the quality of the product just sets us apart. I mean, if you grew up on grocery store bagels, or your only local option was, Einstein's, then you're going to walk in and you're going to see guys, crack fresh eggs and slice a half an avocado, put it right on your sandwich, and, thick cut bacon. I mean, it's different. And the bagel is like a, legitimate, authentic New York City bagel. So, it's hitting because it is like real food, high quality, great environment. It's everything that the bagel category hasn't been for, 20, 30, 40 years.
So I think that's the argument, right? For either, because there are some people who are just like, private equity's involved, this, that, like the category's going to get ruined, or even, some folks, and I've even speculated on it. It's like, okay, this feels like anytime there's like a lot of excitement, it's usually time to pull back and evaluate. But what you're saying is like the product quality is markedly different from the legacy brands that do have some scale. So that does bode well for the staying power.
For sure. I mean, look, if you look at every other category other than bagels, there's brands in each category that have elevated that category into higher quality, better experience for the consumer, and people love it. But because of the complexity of making bagels, it always held our category back. And so that's what we spent the last 12 years trying to solve for. Is I would love the opportunity to elevate the category. I would love the opportunity to bring an actual, authentic New York City bacon, egg, and cheese to that family in California or Texas or Florida, and they're responding because it's an awesome product, and they haven't had that opportunity before. So, and it just took years of effort to kind of figure out how to maintain our quality standards and get that to every location around the country. So
far throughout your journey, you're in, I guess, year 12, right? 13th. Okay.
Yeah, year 13.
You've built a production facility from scratch, or maybe you modified an existing facility, but you've launched franchising too.
Yep.
And these things cost money.
Sure.
Franchising at a minimum, just the regulation and the paperwork to do it's going to cost you probably close to $100,000. So you still haven't raised any money.
We took a little from friends and family, but my wife and I are 90% equity owners of the company.
Is there, with the expansion, and I hate to keep bringing them up, but it's just so fascinating, the different trajectory or the different paths you've chosen to take. Where I mean, the investment that Pop-Up has taken. I mean, we're talking tens of millions of investment dollars, and I know it was from a VC firm to buy the majority stake. So maybe there was just some good negotiating on the part of the founders there to say, if you want this, you're gonna have to pay up a lot of money. So, but do you have plans to? Because there is an argument to be made, right, that capital can be a good thing. You can
absolutely. I am not anti-capital or anti-private equity. It's somewhat amusing, the visceral reaction to it, because
people hate private equity.
They sure do.
They hate it. And it's the number one comment I get on my content.
I mean, there have certainly been some very poor results from private equity involved companies over the years, but like to paint all of them with this singular brush is not entirely fair. There are some very good operators within that category that are doing good things. But, I think higher level, people don't understand how difficult it is to grow in our country a small business. I mean, everything is working against you. So it is a difficult task. So the amount of pressure and stress to grow internally without outside capital is high. I mean, it's very, very high. So I don't discount any founder that's, looking to release that pressure valve because it's intense. I have spoken to many in that world, and a fair amount of them want majority stakes, and I'm unwilling to ever go there. This is my life's work. I made it this far, so we're gonna keep chugging and see where it takes us. But yeah, I mean, it's funny, like the NVIDIA, the NVIDIA CEO, the most valuable company on the planet, and arguably one of the greatest entrepreneurs of the century, like has this quote of like, if someone asked me to, to start up a company and be an entrepreneur, I'm going to tell them don't do it. It's like, it is the most stressful, difficult thing humanly possible. I'm like, I showed the quote to my wife. I'm like, this is exactly how I feel. So, in those moments where I seem stressed, this is exactly how it feels. Because the United States banking system is not here to work for, small business. The large Fortune 500 companies that are some of our vendors, they're not helping me out. So, no one's there to help you out. So, because like small business, you're the end, you're in, you get the table scraps.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
No, it's so hard. And
it's tough. And, like in this day and age, everyone questions why every business or any business wants to scale. And, a chef, this chef, that chef is a sellout for scaling. I'm like, you guys, you don't understand. Like, if you don't scale, you're dead. I mean, you're just dead. There's just no end game. I mean, it's not like consumers are going to be open to paying, $4 or $5 a bagel. I mean, then you're dead in a different direction. Mm-hmm. So it's like, which route do you want me to take here? I mean,
yeah,
it's just the nature of the beast. It's just how it works. I mean, you just need scale to be able to drive costs down, and we've used scale to keep or improve quality. But obviously, there are some out there that use scale to continue to drive more margin than quality. But I mean, not only did we switch to unbromated flour to, from bromated flour, 12 years ago, we still crack fresh eggs. We still, slice fresh avocado. But like when I started, our blueberry bagel was, they used artificial blueberry flavoring. It was like, blueberry candy, and it was disgusting. So we use real blueberries in our blueberry bagels. We use real raisins in our cinnamon raisin bagels. And I mean, everything is all natural and real. Like, again, back to the very beginning, it's, real food is the most important thing. We found this, new raisin like a year ago from a different country, and it was like more raisiny, like stronger raisin flavor. And we were like totally pumped, like, yes, we're going to have an even better cinnamon raisin bagel. Awesome. But that's what our entire team is doing all the time is trying to make things better. I mean, we use fresh vegetables in all our cream cheeses. All the cream cheeses are made at each location in the country.
Okay.
They're not made centrally, they're made locally.
Okay.
So
when you, or maybe as franchising has gone on, did you ever tweak the menu to think we need to dial it back because maybe the training involved and the knowledge transfer that you have to impart for every franchisee is maybe too high a burden, or did you have the menu dialed in when you began franchising?
We thought we had the menu dialed in. So between when I joined in 2014 and when we started franchising, we probably cut out 60% of the menu. But we're a data-driven company. I'm a data-driven person. Once we got half a dozen units up and running, and we use Toast, which is amazing POS and also very accessible data. I looked at the numbers and realized we still hadn't done enough on the menu. So this past January, we dropped another, I think, 60% of the sandwiches on our sandwich menu. The reality was the top 3 sandwiches are selling, 51% of our sandwich sales.
Holy crap.
The top 11 or 91%. And at the time, we had 32 sandwiches with 11 selling 91%. So
get rid of it.
Yeah, exactly. So we had 21 sandwiches selling 9% of sales. So, we got rid of probably 17 of those, 18 of those. But that is reverberated up and down the P&L and up and down the operation. So from just like a gross margin COGS perspective, we've seen a dramatic improvement in gross margin on a company-owned location since January. And that's like invisible waste where, you're throwing away a half a pound of ham or a quarter pound of roast beef, and you're doing that every day. But no one's telling you they're doing it because, you don't want to be a bearer of bad news. So it just kind of one of those things that disappears, invisible waste. But even more importantly, the wait times have gone down. The complexity of the operation has gone way down. Consumers are walking in and walking out faster. And that's really what it's all about. Because, as I remind franchisees all the time, look, we are breakfast, lunch. So, you just got to keep that in mind. It's all about convenience and speed. And, people are in a hurry. People are busy. So, for breakfast, lunch, they want in and out as fast as possible. They want a fresh, great product, which we provide. And so you might have to wait 6 minutes here versus, 30 seconds somewhere else that has it pre-made under a warmer or whatever. But they're at H&H for a reason. They love the fresh, real food.
When you look forward, I can't even imagine. It must just be a crazy journey for acquiring the business. Going through COVID, which we really haven't even touched on. Which in New York, I've pretty much every person I interview on this podcast, like there's always a COVID story.
Yeah.
But it vastly differs from where your locations were, right? I think I interviewed someone in Texas, and that was just a totally different ballgame than what we went through here in New York. So, but that, and then this franchising wave and this massive popularity in the category. When you look forward, what's like the overarching North Star goal? Is it just say like we want to be all over America? Like, have you mapped it out where you know how many locations you think H&H can have in this country? Mm-hmm. Like, is it 600, like the way Einstein's at? Do you think it's more?
Einstein with all of the brands are closer to 1,000.
True. With like, what is it?
They've got Noah's, they've got Manhattan, they've got Brugger's. Yeah. So all their locations are 1,000. We just opened location number 20, so it's still pretty early days. I would definitely say, 500 or 600 seems reasonable and doable in the United States over time.
And you want to do that? Like, you want to be on board for that?
I'm not that young, so we'll see how long I can last. I'm having a blast. I've got a team of youngsters that love coming to work, and I love working with them.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But I'm still young enough. I've got an 11-year-old that I want to keep working for a while. But
yeah,
I don't know. So we're at 20, so opening 580 more. That's going to take a little time. But and then look, I think it could easily double that from an international perspective. So I think as putting on my like global brand hat, it's easily something in the 1,500 unit range. But you might ask me that again in 3 years, and I'm like, now we've got 60 or 70 units, and we're feeling better about the runway. And maybe it says, but will it ever be Chipotle 6,000 units? No, never.
Okay.
It's just, bagels are a multi-billion-dollar category. So we think there's tons of growth out there for franchise groups in a lot of available territories, but it's not Chipotle or Starbucks top category.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Starbucks, just given the prevalence of breakfast traffic for you,
sure.
Have you guys thought about going serious, like really serious about coffee, or is it just menu creep and product focus? You don't want to necessarily compete in that, because that's a whole. The coffee category, similar to bagels, also having their own little wave.
Oh, yeah, more
with 7 Brew and Dutch Bros. So
I'd say a lot more severe than the bagel category. Not really. We think we play well with coffee. We don't really want to get in the espresso, cappuccino, macchiato game. That's a specialized equipment. That's just a lot more intricate labor. So we rather be in the same center as these guys. We have an awesome coffee. We use a proprietary small batch blend that is super high quality, if not probably better quality than Starbucks. So we have great hot, cold, iced, and nitro, but we don't want to make espresso.
Yeah,
because it's going to slow the line down. It's going to do everything that it's going to fumble the operation that we just spent a decade building, basically.
And for franchisees who are listening to this and possibly interested in the brand, from a site selection standpoint, I got to imagine this can work in any shopping center, strip mall. I mean, we're just talking about Starbucks. That's probably a good co-tenant to have.
Sure.
Right? Like those are the types of customers that you guys think would be overlapping well with H&H?
Yeah, I mean, we actually share a wall with Starbucks down in Boca, and interestingly enough, the Starbucks manager shared with us that the sales volume went up after we opened. So we're both like bringing in.
Yeah, it's perfect. Complementary.
And it is complementary. Yeah, I mean, look, we're breakfast, lunch, so convenience is important, access is important. I'm a big believer in congregating near other great brands where like that traffic flow already exists. I don't really want to be on a food island. So, put us near a Starbucks, put us near Whole Foods or Trader Joe's or Cava or Sweetgreen or, Chipotle, all those guys, Shake Shack. I mean, it's as you've seen over the years, in the old days, like 20 years ago, brands would like avoid each other. And then they realized if you just all congregate and bring all the traffic into one area, it benefits everybody. Because the reality is people aren't going to eat at H&H every single morning. They're not going to have Shake Shack every single lunch.
I hope not. Yeah.
They just kind of like trade around. So you want to just all kind of congregate together and bring all that traffic from all angles into one area and then share that volume.
Yeah. And we talked about this earlier in maybe a different context, but territory sizing. Mm-hmm. How do you have is there a formulaic approach for you guys in sizing up a territory, or, whether it's a city, let's call it like a Boston or San Diego, I'm just making up.
Yeah, sure. We tend to view it a little bit differently than probably most. We give more generous territory maps. So, we want a map to be above and beyond the commitment of units so that you can kind of continue your growth without being impeded by, a franchisee next door. So if someone's signing a 5-unit deal with us, it tends to be in a top 40 metro area market in the primary market. And then their map will end up, having the ability to grow to 7 to 10 units. So, and then smaller markets with a 3-unit deal, I think over time their maps can probably fit 5 units, 4, 5, 6 units. That's kind of how
Okay.
But I don't like the idea of franchisees bumping up against each other and end up that friction and competing with one another. So I'd rather have a little bit more generous map to where they feel like they have room to grow, and then they can have a better relationship with the guy that comes after them next door. And, just like the anti-Dunkin' or whatever.
Yeah, or Subway's notorious for that.
So, I mean, I obviously never had experience in franchising, but everyone on our entire team has no history in franchising, and I did that somewhat purposefully because I think, there have been things done in the franchising world in its history that are not in the best interest of the franchisees. So I'm doing my best to align everyone's interests along that same continuum so that we're all working towards the same goal. So their goal is obviously to make money and to grow and to build an asset, whether it's for their kids or whether they want to sell it and retire, whatever the case may be. And our goal is also for them to grow, and we want to do it together. But we don't just want to pop, 5 people right around them and then limit their growth.
Yeah. It's interesting. I can almost just you saying that you guys have your whole team is effectively made up of, folks who didn't have experience in the franchise world. It makes sense to me now because, you guys aren't. There's almost this game that a lot of franchise brands play, whether it's working with specific groups who are effectively sales agents on their behalf. And there's conferences and these paid media lists for rankings, but they're not rankings. A lot of it is pay to play. Some of it's fair, but some of it, a good amount is pay to play as well.
Oh no.
And you guys aren't playing any of that. You're just doing it your way.
No, we did some franchise shows early on, but because we latched onto multi-unit pretty much right out of the gate, it just wasn't the right place for us. We were just trying to get our name out a little bit. But no, we've never used any broker, outside broker for any of our development agreements. Not that we wouldn't, but we're just not going out and hiring third party. We're going to do it all internally. But yeah, our director of business development was talking to some broker, I think it was last month or something, and he was like, "Man, you guys are like the anti-franchise franchise." And I was like, "That's a good one. I'm going to remember that." But that's about right.
No, I like it. I think,
we wanted to build a system that was, I don't know, fair, I guess. I'm an incredibly fair-minded guy, and there's just some things that go on in the franchise world that I don't find to be fair. So like we don't ever take any vendor rebate checks. We just fight for the lowest price for the whole system. I mean, Ryan and I probably are on a call like several calls a month trying to negotiate better pricing for everybody, and I that's just like one of our core beliefs.
Is Ryan like, is he a COO or, because you've mentioned it?
He's our director of operations and
Okay.
future COO probably. Yeah.
Has there ever been a moment where you got, or you in particular, where maybe, I don't want to say regret, but you've ever rethought, like had second thoughts on the whole franchising endeavor? Because much like you getting into being an operator of H&H, franchising as a whole, it's a second business.
Sure. Yeah, no doubt.
And did you ever think, crap, maybe we should just build more stores ourselves so we don't have to deal with franchisees or anything like that?
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to pick your poison. I picked franchisees over private equity because you gotta get capital somewhere.
So if
it
you were
is impossible or virtually impossible, I can think of a couple exceptions in my brain, but it is virtually impossible to grow corporate-owned locations internally without any outside. I mean, it's especially in 2026. Now,
it's
maybe 20 years ago,
brutal.
It could have been done, but let's not forget, like construction costs are
through the roof
since the pandemic, never went down. And that goes back to my comments about scaling and not scaling. And we all dream of a day where we're all like eating at a restaurant with a farm in the backyard, like making every ingredient from scratch. But like it's just a fairy tale. It's impossible in this day and age. So I mean, so we picked our poison. And we liked the idea of franchising. We liked the idea of local owners being involved with the community, having that community connection that becomes obviously difficult when you're corporate owned. So, we picked the poison.
There's pros and cons for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, unless, if you're going corporate owned, you're either raising outside capital and giving up equity, or you're...
And certainly in our category, because the build outs are, I mean, they're not cheap. We've done a great job of value engineering it and driving costs down, but it's also not a coffee shop with no hoods and minimal equipment.
Even so, though, I mean, I think I saw on your FDD item 7, it's like, I mean, it tops out, it's under $900K.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, in the restaurant world, I mean, I've interviewed Dunkin' owners and Wingstop owners. Wingstop's actually pretty economical as well. But, in the QSR world in general, I mean, there's multi-million-dollar build-outs.
We are definitely competitive in the food business. And look, we've probably driven down costs 20 to 25% over the last 18 months by just being smarter and negotiating better price and removing things that weren't important to the model and to the brand.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I'm excited to watch you guys grow and see how things come along. I mean, you guys are off to a killer start. So, I think the future's bright.
We got a lot more on the way. We got we should get up to 10 more openings this year. The rest of this year, we've got Palm Beach Gardens next month. We got Chicago next month, and then we're going to go out to California and down to Texas later in the year. So
nice. Okay, so some good markets coming in the pipeline.
Absolutely.
Well, my closing question for all my guests are: who is someone that's made a big impact on you and played a part in your success in life, but maybe doesn't get the credit that they deserve?
I would probably say my primary mentor in finance back at AIM. He was generally one of the greatest guys ever, and family was everything to him. And he had a saying way back then in my 20s that took me some years to absorb and understand, but he would never go out to any of the events after work, and I'd be like, Bob, why don't you ever go to these dinners and meet these analysts and company? Jay, if I say yes to something, I got to say no to something else. And usually the no will be my family. So that's why I'm like, all right, cool. But now, with a family and an 11-year-old son, I get it. Like, but it applies to everything in life, right? I mean, like, we all are dealing with finite time in any given day. So I try to tell the young guys on my team is like, you can't just say yes to everything, because your day is going to disappear and you're not going to really achieve what your goals were for that day or for that week. And so you have to learn to say no to things that aren't.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Yeah, it reminds me, there's a quote from Steve Jobs. It's like, I'm simplifying it, but it's basically focus is saying no.
Yeah.
And because, if you say yes to everything, you're going to lose focus on whatever the main thing is supposed 100%. To be. So awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah.